Welcome back to another episode of the Loco Fit Show, where we redefine what healthy means to you. I'm your host, Lauren Conlon, and this week I'm so excited for our coach interview because this is our newest coach, Hannah Hardy. Welcome. So,
Oh,
so
thank you.
pumped to have you on the team and just to go through this whole interview so people can really get to know you and know your story.
No, I appreciate it. Seriously, I'm just grateful to be a part of the team and I'm just, ready to get people to know me and, just I don't know, just start the adventure. I'm just really excited to be a part.
Yes, no, we're so happy to have you. And so give us a little bit of background. Like, where did you even start with fitness? Like, you're a very accomplished athlete now, but where did all this start growing up?
Yeah, so I was a multi-sport athlete all throughout my life. I started with swimming when I was super young. And then once I hit middle school, high school, that's when I dabbled with pretty much all the ball sports, volleyball and basketball, tennis, softball, you name it. I just, tried. And I went to a pretty small school, so it was pretty easy to make a team. And they were like, hey, you played this sport, let's go on this team. And
They always
um,
do that. Like, oh, you're good at this. You should try this too, right?
yeah, that was not the case for softball. That was by far my worst sport. Just a hard ball coming super fast at you. I had a lot of junior Olympians on my team, just like on my school team. So I was like, I'm just gonna hope that they walk me. That was pretty much my entire experience with softball.
Yeah, I can't
But
even like catch a ball, so don't. We had to do. I went to one of the CrossFit classes, 2 weeks ago, and we
yeah.
had to do. This is super easy, but like I don't even know what it's called when you squat and then you like throw the
Oh,
ball
wall
up
ball. Yeah.
and then you catch it. Yeah, it's like hitting me in the face. I'm like dropping it. I'm like, oh my
It's
god, this is so embarrassing.
It's okay. I think half the time, I mean, most of the time, it just like hits me in the chin or in the nose every single rep, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, well, at least I caught it with something. It's like a 3-point contact with my hands. um, but I started getting into general fitness to prepare myself to go to the Naval Academy actually, or to get a Naval ROTC scholarship, and that happened around my sophomore year. I just incorporated just more running because that's what you really do for PT wise. And then going to the gym, and I pretty much just hit like the typical like bodybuilding splits because I didn't know anything else. That's what I saw on Pinterest and bodybuilding.com. I had no clue. But I was
Pinterest.
like, well, this is what I need to do. I actually got pretty fit that way. And then nutrition wise, after I'd say probably like a half a year of just focusing more so on the fitness side of things, I realized that nutrition's an even bigger part or an equal part, especially for muscle building, recovery, fat loss, because I wasn't like the most like healthy kid growing up. I remember even before a practice or a game, I'd get like the 10-piece McNugget with a large fry and a large sweet tea, because that's totally what fuels you. But that's what I did, like at least in high school. Um, so really started to dial in my nutrition, and that like in a sense just kind of like teeter-tottered out of control. So we can go into that a little bit later, but that's pretty much my experience just with under eating and under fueling really actually like, sparked my passion to want to coach people because I didn't want anybody to end up in the same boat that I was for so many years.
Dude, absolutely. I mean, that's different story, but similar, right? Like in those areas with our backgrounds, like, growing up having an eating disorder and then it kind of spiraling, right? Like it's starting with something that's not so bad and then it can really spiral. But seeing how you can come out on the other side of that certainly is like, okay, wow, I really don't want other people to deal with this. And what you talk about is a very common story, like it is so crazy to think that like especially and maybe it's different now, I don't know, but like in high school there is no like even talk of like healthy eating. And like to be honest, I feel like the athletes eat the worst because they're not really, most of them, seeing the like physical side effects of eating like that because they're training so much, right? But
Right.
it's like it's so common just for athletes to eat like just trash, and like not really. And now I don't want to say like oh my gosh, we have to be diligent with nutrition in high school, but
Right, right.
there's a level of like quality food, and talking about that. And then yeah, like when you're talking about like Pinterest and stuff, I didn't even know Pinterest had training or nutrition things on there. But I guess they have everything, right? And that was kind
Yeah,
of like my experience with the like the magazines and like the blogs and all that stuff. You see
right,
those and you're like, oh well, so and so is doing this, like let me try that. And I think a lot of people start in that way, which thankfully there's definitely a plethora of information out there now, so hopefully people are at least finding the right things. But
right.
there's also plenty of not great stuff, as evidenced by TikTok. Danielle will literally send me stuff and I'll be like, how does this have however many views and saves, and like people are thinking that this is like a good
Ri
idea.
Right, right. No, I get blown away sometimes, and I mean, I already get flack for doing CrossFit, but just like seeing some of the other stuff, I'm like, man, it's like, man, people like that, but or really think like that's like, I mean, not to say it's like, hey, if that jump starts someone's fitness, by means, do it. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get so much flack. People think I'm gonna get injured 24, I'm gonna be injured 24/7. Yet, like, here's like someone doing just like some exercise that I'm like, either A is dangerous or B, I don't even know what it affects.
Yeah, that's a whole different so that's a whole different rabbit hole. But the thing with CrossFit, so I want to get into that. So you're finishing out high school. What was kind of the next steps? I know you were a really successful athlete, and then kind of how did you transition, to the next thing?
Yeah, so once I, like, started training for the Naval Academy, I definitely I had and just ate and underfueled. I had a few stints in the hospital for anorexia, and but when I was really just wanting to get back into fitness, I dabbled in CrossFit for a little bit of my junior year in high school. One of my family friends did it. I just saw it on ESPN with my dad, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is the coolest thing in the world." And then he just brought up that our family friend did it. I was blown away. Of course, CrossFit the lifestyle is different than the sport, but I mean, we do the same movements, the same workouts, just the intensity and maybe the complexity is a little bit higher at the sport level. But pretty much switched over to CrossFit uh, during my senior year in high school instead of playing basketball because I'm pretty short. I'm 5'4". It's not the best for a basketball player, and I just took off with it. It really helped me just like frame my mindset of, oh, I need to fuel if I actually want to do this competitively or even as a lifestyle. I mean, CrossFit, I love that it's not only to improve one's fitness, but to improve one's health overall. And that's what gave me more body positivity. I loved what I could do in the gym. I wanted to do more just like as a person. I started to realize that looks were one thing, but performance was something completely different. And I was really focused on the performance side. Not to mention, I still had my aspirations to go to the Naval Academy. So a lot of times, CrossFit has prepared people to go into the military, the SEALs, all of that. So I thought that was also a really good, fitness program for that, maybe a little bit better than what I was doing. And, now here I am, man, like 8 years later, still doing it, still going strong. And I mean, there's been a lot of progress along the way.
Yeah, would you say that that was the big catalyst of getting past your eating disorder, was finding something that allowed you to focus solely on performance? Because previously you were an athlete who was focusing on performance, right? Like all the different sports you were playing, and training for the Naval Academy, but something seemed to be different about CrossFit. So would you say that it was like that shift from that shift towards performance, but really like what was it, do you think, that kind of helped you get past that?
I mean, really, it was when I was training for the Naval Academy pre-CrossFit. I think just because of maybe either just the blogs I was reading or I was getting attention at school from the guys finally. That was super new. Like I really liked the way I looked and I
When you
think
were getting thinner?
yes, when I was getting
Okay.
thinner, when I was losing weight, I was, like I was getting fitter, like I was, consistently running like, low 6 miles, which was like for like 3 to 5 miles. I was like, man, I am the best running shape of my life. I don't know about now. Just through that, I think I focused a lot more on just the way I looked, and I was like, hey, if I looked a certain way, I would perform a certain way, and I would be more so, like, accepted by the Naval Academy because I looked the part, and through that, I had this unhealthy obsession with the way I looked, and I thought just the less I ate, the more I worked out, just the more accepted I would be at, like, either just, like, at school or just career-wise and goal-wise where I wanted to be, and when I switched to CrossFit, yes, like, people are I mean, the athletes, like, everyone's shredded and jacked, and things like that, but I was just looking at especially I was 17 at the time, turning 18. That was the first year of the teenage division in the CrossFit Games. I immediately aged out, of course, but I was looking at people who were just like a year younger than me and just like seeing like what they were like what they could do. And it was so amazing that it's like people younger than me can like clean and jerk 225 pounds and do like 15 plus unbroken ring muscle ups, things like that. And then just even the people at my gym, I was blown away with what they could do. And they're winning all the local competitions and going the regionals back in the day. And just seeing that, that's like where I switched of, oh, if I want to actually be that, I it doesn't matter how I look. I need to fuel myself properly. And if I feel good and if I'm performing well, like that's what I want to go after. I want to go after my performance best. And not to say that I still don't, wanna, wanna look the part, and sometimes, like, I do, like, look around me sometimes with where I'm at Training Think Tank, which is a big coaching organization, and some of the athletes, I'm like, "Whoa," like, I do not look that way whatsoever, and I kinda got a little tease for fun, like, at my old CrossFit gym because everyone was shredded in Florida, and then there's me, like, coming in. I look fit. But,
You
I think
definitely do, but I totally get it. It's just
but
different, you know?
yeah, it's totally different, and I really just do think just, like, each year it's gotten easier and easier to look at myself and say, "Man," like, I think about what I'm capable of doing rather than be like, "Oh man, I have the greatest six pack," or "My biceps are looking great," and things like that, and I think it's taken a lot less pressure off of me too.
No, I love that. And I think that there's, part of that is just growth and maturity, right? We realize, okay, we're not just our external attributes. And that doesn't mean that you don't have, physique goals. And it doesn't mean that you don't hold yourself to a certain standard. But there is this different interplay of like, I'm training because like, out of like love for myself, out of love for competing, out of performance. And, if I want to make some changes to my body comp, I can, but also the number one thing, especially with performance athletes, is like performance is number one, and a lot of people will see, there are those people who are jacked and shredded and super athletic year round. Them, I know them, right? And it's like, man, like what gives, right? But
Right.
that's just, genetically speaking, there are some people who are going to fit into that category. And that's okay. I'm not taking away their hard work at all, but there's just some people who are going to be able to have that kind of physique, and still perform at a high level. But everybody has different body types, everybody has different body shapes. I could be like, man, I really wish I had this, but it's like, I got legs that are so long. Like the chances of me having like round, full muscle bellies is like pretty slim, right? Um, it's not like, oh my gosh, I don't like cry myself to sleep over it.
Right.
It's just like, okay, this is the reality. I can appreciate that in other people. I can work towards, hey, here's this goal that I have for myself. And I think that you've done that really, really well. And I love that that was what was able to get you out of that headspace, because it can spiral, especially when, that's really where I start to see a lot of the issues, especially with clients, is when people are getting that positive reinforcement from others. Like,
Right.
because people aren't like, oh, I want to fuel your eating disorder. They're just being nice. They're like, oh, they're genuinely most of the time complimenting. So
Right.
it's like, oh wait, like, do I have to, like, that happens a lot of times with physique competitors that we work with. Like, people are, you know you're sharing your process, people are excited about it, they're making comments, but then afterwards those things stop. So it's like, oh, was it only because of this? And whether that's a conscious process or a subconscious process, a lot of us kind of gear towards that, because it's like that those external feedback and validation is, it does feel nice. I don't care who you are. I don't like everybody likes it. You know what I mean? So, but it
Right.
can spiral really quickly, and it's certainly not something as sustaining as like what you found, is more of this kind of internal, like, okay, this is why I'm doing this. And that's what, the extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation that, psychologists have talked about for years and years. Like, that's really where a lot of this comes from. But I'm so happy that you found this and you are, past it. Did you need to, I know you said you had a few stints in the hospital, did you see a therapist, did you see an RD, like, did somebody kind of help you along that journey, or was it just like all self-directed?
So I mean, throughout the process, it's like I had both. I had a family therapist because I was 16, 17 at the time. So my mom came to my appointments and we talked things through. And then also, I had a RD while in the hospital. But I think I was so amazed at like what they were telling me to do. I mean, while in the hospital, I pretty much ate the same things all the time because I mean, with me, I had a obsession of focusing on healthy foods. That orthorexia, that I mean, it's not a medical term yet, but it's starting to pop up in different circles. But at the same time, when I knew I needed to gain weight, I mean, my lowest weight was, I think, 94 pounds. And that I was not, it was not good whatsoever. I was willing to eat more, but I wanted to eat it just in a healthy way. Like, I wanted to be a healthy weight gain, not me just, eating pizza and chicken nuggets and things like that. And I was blown away when I remember the RD coming into my room and saying, "Hey, like you've ordered like the same things all the time, like the scrambled eggs, which I don't even think they're real eggs, um, and then just a grilled chicken breast with, I mean, I had like a potato or and a vegetable, things like that, PB&Js for snacks, um, and she was like, "Why don't you get the the like chicken tenders or the hamburger um and or pizza?" And I said, well, I want to like still try to eat healthy like throughout this process. I know that I'm at a low weight or like significantly low weight and I need to gain it back, but like, I still want to be healthy. And she told me that was the eating disorder talking, and that blew my mind. I just was like, okay, well, I know that I'm still somewhat afraid of these unhealthy foods, but it was me reaching out and being like, okay, like I'm eating cereals for the first time. Even though that was like a big step for me. Again, like PB&Js were I didn't want to eat bread back then, and that was a big step for me. So I thought I was hitting like, I was hitting these goals of like, okay, like I'm getting out of my comfort zone and, like facing my fears of these unhealthy foods. But when she told me that, oh, my eating disorder's talking just because I wanted the healthy foods, that's what like really blew my mind. So I like once I got to CrossFit, I think when they're like, "Hey, you can fuel and we also focus on like whole foods." Like I was set. I was like, "Thank you." Like someone is like telling me that like I was right the entire time. And not to, I love our medical system, but it was just those things that was blowing my mind of just saying like, okay, like just because like I want to eat healthy. Or I remember I asked for 2% milk because that's the milk I prefer. I full fat milk. I mean, man, I can drink like a sip, but like a whole glass is I'm gonna have a stomach ache for days. And they were telling me that was that was my eating disorder, just telling me to get the 2% because it was lower in fat. And that was blowing my mind. So, I mean, that's a long answer of I like really tried to go these different routes, but CrossFit's really what set me on the path of okay, like yes, I can gain healthy weight and get back to a normalized weight, but doing it in a healthy manner and not sacrificing that food quality side of things. And then from there, that's when I got my own nutrition coach, and we focused more on macronutrients. And and now I'm still doing that currently to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that feedback because it's it really is what that just says to me is that each person doesn't have enough time with the patient in that situation, right?
Mm,
Because on a surface level, right, if you're like, "Hey, I don't want to eat this," like I can understand that feedback, but at the same time it's like you have to understand like the client's motivations and like really
right,
where their headspace is at. And if you are making these changes, like that should be celebrated, right? And those small changes and health should still be there. Like, yeah, like, sure, you could eat pizza and first of all, who the hell wants to eat a burger at a hospital? I'm just like, I'm
no,
like nauseous thinking about that. Like that, like, and I like burgers. That is the last thing that I would order at a
right,
hospital. So like, and again, I know that's what they have access to, but
yeah,
it is so interesting how like, and this is just what we see so much in the industry. It's completely paralleled. Like there is just such an extreme view on everything, and it's like obviously having an eating disorder is not ideal. Like we need to move
right,
past that as soon as possible and work through that. But working through that at the detriment of then the rest of your body and the rest of your systems, and just basically force feeding someone shit, like what is that going to do? Like that's not going to help. That's also not even teaching the patient like what's going on, and we see this all the time with like the clean eating to then the IFYM taken out of control. And then it was like, you know, all diets are bad, like just intuitively eat, or hey, no, track your like it's always this extreme thing. It's like, you taking those steps, like I'm gonna add in a potato, I'm gonna have bread, I'm gonna do like those are all steps. And obviously I can't speak to the experience or the RD, but it probably just was again somebody who didn't have enough time with each patient to really actually kind of develop that like rapport and ask those questions. And that's one of the just the very unfortunate side effects of a lot of the medical system just currently. It's like, yeah, how is this going? Okay, yeah, yeah, like, and you have to
right.
make those quick, you know adjustments and recommendations, unfortunately. So I'm really glad that you're able to find something where you were able to have that positive influence in that community. And yeah, there are certainly things that everybody can dog on CrossFit for, which, like there are certainly some things that are not ideal. But I would say that for, a lot of the positives in terms of the community is that like we're basing this on performance, we're basing this off of like quality food and fueling yourself. So like that was honestly the most perfect thing that you could have found. And also taking advantage of the skills and strengths that you have just as an athlete because you're very athletic. So um glad that you're able to get through that. And obviously everybody has days here and there, but overall you would say that you're probably kind of fully past that, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, a lot of times I mean, with me, it's just I like even just like find solace of eating whole foods. I mean, my friends make fun of me. I eat a lot of fruit. They'll see me with a huge bowl of blueberries to like
Fruit's the
hit my
best. Who makes fun of you for
micronutrients.
that?
I mean, I think it's just like, man, that's a lot of blueberries. But I mean, with me, it's like, man, it's like these are the foods I enjoy. I was like, I know they give me, I mean, less stress than if I ate like a bowl of cereal or things like that. Even though I still do that, it's just like I crave the healthier things. I really enjoy that, and with me, it's like that's. I mean, I know that's gonna fuel me as much as anything else, and um yeah, like again, like I have my days, but in the end, it's, like we were talking about the extrinsic versus like intrinsic motivation stuff. I love just like the way I perform. I love like the way I love myself as an athlete, a daughter, a doctor, like a coach. like those are the things I take pride in more so than um the just the way I look now, which is, I mean, I hope everybody gets to that point.
Yeah, and that's our goal, right? And that's why you want to coach, and you've been doing different types of coaching before coming to Team Loco Fit, just in a different kind of capacity. But yeah, I love that. And I think that there is a difference. Like that's really when you've kind of made it over that hump, right? Because I think, and this is not just for eating disorders, this is just in general, but like there is a big difference. Like you can eat almost anything, right? Of course, again, when we're talking about calorie balance and performance and all of that, but there is a really big difference when you're choosing to eat things that you feel good eating, right? And when people start to actually feel that, like I love when a client is like, like I enjoy these things, but I actually feel much better when I eat like this. And I'm like, yes, like this is finally it. Like that's not coming from a place of restriction. That's not
Right.
coming from a place of like an orthorexic mindset of like, I can only have this because it's healthy. That's a totally different mindset. What you're saying and what we hope that clients can get to is, no, I'm choosing this because this is fueling me and I feel better when I eat these foods. Doesn't mean, you don't have cereal every once in a while. Ice cream, like we all have those things every once in a while that we like, but that really is that like actual moderation, instead of feeling like you have to eat something like that because you're so drawn to it, or you can't eat it because you have to restrict, right? So again, going like that's the real end goal that we hope for everybody. And it does feel truly amazing to be able to do that. So I'm so happy that you said that and you're able to, finally move past it in that way. So now we've gotten to undergrad-ish, right? So tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about your undergrad and then also, recent schooling as well.
I got my degree in undergrad in kinesiology. While there, I mean, extracurricular wise, I was doing CrossFit. I became a CrossFit coach, and then in school, We had a huge kind of like it was more pre physical therapy or pre athletic training focus. So I actually worked with the athletic trainers and the sports nutrition staff for UVA athletics and specifically for the football team. So that was a really fun experience. I dabbled in that, took a year off because I graduated in 3 years, and I was just a full time CrossFit coach. Then the past 3 years, I've been in chiropractic school, and I recently just finished up this December. Uh, and I was down in Florida for that, where we finally got connected.
Yes. Oh my God. It was so crazy how we did the interview process and I was like, yeah, when are you finishing school? Cause I was thinking it was gonna be like a normal Meg. So you're like, oh, like next week. I'm like, oh, okay. Like there's one. No, that's so amazing. And I'm just curious, how was the difference working with the sports nutritionist versus your experience at the hospital, which again, completely different
Yeah.
target audience, completely different things, but just curious how different that was.
Oh, it was so different. I mean, just like seeing just like the variety of foods they had, it was like I mean, it was primarily carb based because most of our sports, that's what you fuel yourself with. And I mean, especially with the football team, I was carrying Gatorade chews around, just making the Gatorade or the water tubs. I mean, our breakfast and snacks like typically consisted of like bagels with, I mean, just like more so like lower fat stuff from like turkey, just like 2% or fat-free milk, the muscle milks. I mean, everything is just like that's what it was geared towards is like athletic performance. And because football is such a glycolytic sport, I mean, you're not probably not working for more than 10-15 seconds at a time. I'm like, oh, this makes sense. And I mean, even just like in training and in their scrimmages and practices and stuff like that, like the amount of carbs they eat, like or drink during it, that was just like a huge eye opener to me, and just be like, okay, like that if this is what these collegiate slash Olympic level athletes are doing to get to the highest level, I'm like, I mean, I can do the same thing in CrossFit.
Yeah. Intra-workout carbs are so underrated. And it's one of those things, especially like, the bodybuilding world embraces it. I would say for a large part, but mostly people think of it as something where it's like off season, or if you're a guy who's eating a lot of food, which
Mhm.
makes sense, right? If you're having
Yeah.
a lot of calories you have to eat, especially carbs, you're going to want to drink them at some point, So intra workout and post workout kind of makes sense to have a large bolus of drinkable carbs. But even for like, just normal, even lifestyle clients, for a female clients who are normal, I'm like, hey, add in 10 to 15 carbs. And I know that the people are like, I don't want to drink my carbs. Listen, you will feel your training performance will be so improved. Now, I don't do it every session, but I would say that if I can remember, like the other day, I literally
Yeah.
made it and left it on my counter. I'm like, good job, bro.
So you get
Great. That was
it's
a
like
great
there's
intro
one last
workout
step.
on your counter.
No, I mean, I'm the same way, like, with me, it's like, I literally just, like, threw a huge Costco box of Go-Go squeezes in my car, so that way, like, if I can't forget, I can literally just go out in my car, pick up one, like, in between workouts,
I know. I'm
um,
like, oh my God,
and
why would I do like, because I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. And then I was like, oh, that drink that you left on the counter. Okay. But yeah, those things are so underrated. Which again could definitely be a topic for a different podcast that we do, fueling for performance. So we could talk about that another time. But love that you had a really great experience there and got to see kind of just a different side of nutrition and dietetics. And then obviously I know chiropractic school, everybody is pretty familiar with chiropractic work. What were some of your biggest takeaways or things that you maybe didn't expect to learn there? And I know that's kind of a open-ended question, but
yeah.
you know, it's a very intensive schooling process. So just kind of curious what that experience was like and just some of the things that maybe people wouldn't know when we're, thinking about chiropractic care.
Yeah. I mean, with chiropractic care, we have a lot of classes specifically on nutrition from just like the biochemistry of metabolism to just medical nutrition in general. And especially when it comes to vitamin deficiencies, we have a really keen eye of picking up the clinical signs and helping out, or even in like blood work panels, we can see like different vitamin deficiencies, or maybe it's not a problem yet, sort of thing. I actually did have a few classes like on sports nutrition, which was actually like I was pretty blown away because I was like, wow, like it's like we had like a sports chiropractic kind of scope in our curriculum, but just I wasn't expecting it from the nutrition side of things. So I thought that was really cool in general. And it was, I mean, I was like really just really blown away of I was like, "Oh, man, like, I feel like I can be this, like, functional medicine practitioner, like, more so than just a chiropractor." I
Mhm.
feel like at my school, they really prepared us in the to be a doctor that doesn't prescribe medications rather than a chiropractor. They gave us the skills to adjust, but they're saying, "You have the rest of your life to get better at this." Whereas, we're gonna set you up strong from just that like medical doctor sort of mind, which that I was pretty blown away about my school.
Yeah, that's not something, we obviously again talked about that, but that was not something that I had really expected either. But when I think back to it, I know some chiropractors who focus primarily on, adjustments and body
Mhm.
work, or focus, primarily on movement and kind of preventative stuff there. But then I do think about it and I do know a handful of chiropractors who also focus more on that kind of holistic side of everything, and playing into, nutrition, like all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, like that makes sense. So that's amazing that you were able to have a school that did focus on that. And that's of course going to help so much with coaching people, and being able to spot those things. And I think it is so important because you are working in a capacity where you are this practitioner, not just, I mean, yeah, certainly we all know chiropractors who just, do little cracks, okay, get out, like that is
Right.
that is possible, but having the ability to have a more integrative practice with preventative medicine, and really being able to educate people, because again, that's the thing that you're going to be able to do, like, your experience with that RD, like just kind of running through everything. Okay, not maybe her fault, it's just kind of the way that the system is, but in your situation, it's like, hey, you can actually talk with these clients, especially if you're in there for like longer
Mhm.
sessions, and be able to make some of this, this change and really help people in that way. So I'm just really excited that you're going to have the ability to do that. with your in-person clients? Because right now you are working at a facility, right?
Yes, yes. So I work up at a clinic here in Alpharetta, Georgia. And I mean, like you said, like I work more so on, again, just adjustments, manual therapy, uh, rehab sorts of things. But I am a huge advocate of just supplementation from just boswellia, fish oils, vitamin D, stuff like that. And just kind of like getting like pinpointed signs of like, hey, like if you don't, it's like if you're not sleeping well, like maybe we should throw in like a zinc and magnesium supplement or check out your bedtime routine, things like that. Like I feel like those little nuggets I've gotten over the years from coaching I've received from nutrition coaches to what I've learned in certifications through CrossFit, through precision nutrition, things like that. That background has helped me a lot in my chiropractic profession. Uh, and then my education, at least, has gotten me to like, okay, like I know the metabolism behind things, I know, or just like how the body works when things happen. So it's really cool seeing the practical knowledge join my education knowledge.
Absolutely. And that really is the mark of a great coach and practitioner. So I'm so thrilled that you're doing that in an in-person capacity and then also going to be doing this with us in this online capacity. So working with people online is different, but obviously it opens up this whole scope of people literally all over the country. You know what I mean? So it's truly great the fact that you're able to you have this knowledge, you have this experience, and you genuinely want to help people here. And like that is the most important thing as a coach. You know what I mean? Like obviously like knowing and having like knowing information and knowing how to make adjustments and like what to say, all of that is so key. But like having the client mentality, like that client first mentality of really being able to say, okay, how can we look at this root problem? It's not just like,
Right.
here's your carbs. Okay, that might be an adjustment, you know what I mean? That might be that week. But then, like you said, what's your bedtime routine look like? Where are you supplementing here? Where are you lacking? Like, what is your normal morning routine? Like, there's so many different things. Oh, this is bothering you with training. Well, why don't we try this? Like, so it's this whole, and the words like functional and integrative and holistic, all this gets thrown around like so much. And it's hard for people because it's like, well, what does that mean?
Right.
I know that person's a quack, but then this person's good. And it's like, sometimes like, I hate how words have gotten misconstrued that way. But I would say that a integrative holistic approach is certainly what we do take here at Team Local Fit. And I'm so happy that you are doing that already, have been doing that, and are interested now in doing this with clients. So if anybody is interested in working with Hannah, she is taking on new clients. So excited. And anything else that you guys want to hear from her, from us, definitely let us know, because there's so many great topics just from this conversation. I'm already like, okay, we can talk about this, like all these different things. And like even the smallest things like vitamin D, like that everybody should be taking vitamin D. Like I don't know one person, and from looking at a lot of blood work, I know from looking at a lot of blood work, unless people are supplementing, the chances that they are in an optimal range of vitamin D is so low, so
Right.
low. Like it's crazy. Like, and it's one of those small things that has such a profound impact. So yeah, I definitely want to do a deep dive into more like vitamin mineral stuff. So already my brain's already going. So like gotta get my notepad out, gotta before I forget. But any other closing thoughts, like anything you want to share, anything else that you want to talk about?
I mean, no, I mean, like I said, I mean, and even said at the beginning of the podcast, I just like I can't wait to work with this team. Like I'm so excited because it just already like seeing you guys walk the walk, being client first. Everybody's so different and you want they're not just a number. You want to get to know them as a person. You want and just like see like how they respond. Like you're only going to go like as fast as they want to and but like actually or but push them like a little bit outside of their comfort zones and just get to know the uh, get to know the client. That's what really like sparked my like interest in working with you guys. And again, I'm just grateful to be a part of the team, and I'm proud to say that I'm a part of it.
Well, that just made my day. So, thank you guys so much for listening. Like I said, if you guys have any other future topics you'd like to hear about, let us know either in the comments or you can send us an email at info@teamlocofit.com. You can also reach out to Hannah for coaching. Do that, visit our website, teamlocofit.com, and you can apply for coaching with her. And yeah, we will talk to you guys next Wednesday.